This is a 3-2 USC team that was ranked inside the top 15 just a couple of weeks ago. A loss to Michigan on the one of the final plays of the game. We talked about that at length when the game happened. And then a loss last week to Minnesota. And a couple of things. I didn't watch the game when it happened, so I saw, wow, they lost to Minnesota 24-17, and now they're 1-2 in Big Ten play. I didn't realize what USC kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit with this one. They turned the ball over 3 times. Mason Miller threw 2 interceptions. He only threw for 200 yards. And this was the stat that jumped out to me the most. USC had 6 drives of 45 yards or more in this game, which I don't know about you guys. I think 45 is a pretty sustainable drive number. I mean, that's a pretty long distance to go down the field. They had 6 drives of 45 yards. They only came away with points on 2 of those 6 drives. They had an interception, a fumble, and I believe they were down on 4th down on a couple of them. Maybe it was the 2 interceptions, but long sustained drives that just didn't end up in points. They only get 14 points off of those 2 drives. I don't want Penn State fans to mistake this team just because they're 3-2 and now no longer ranked as a lesser opponent than they would have been 3 or 4 weeks ago. I don't know about you guys. I still think this is a good USC team.
Yeah, I think this team's dangerous 100%. This is a dangerous team to me. And, as I was looking through this week and kind of thinking about what I feel like the result of this game is going to be, I cannot seem to land somewhere. This could be a game where USC just comes out offensively and they're just firing on all cylinders. And, we have a shaky start because we've had some shaky starts these past 2 games. That's been one of Coach Franklin's talking points in his press conferences, us starting faster. We're away, so we're the ones traveling. It's like there's a lot of factors that could tip in USC's favor in this game where I just don't know what the result is going to be. It could be a lopsided win on either side. It could be a very close game. So I think they're going to have all the juice in the world coming off of back-to-back losses. They're trying to put it together. They know their capabilities, who they can be, things of that nature. We got to go over there and take care of our business. This is going to be a really intriguing game and one that's going to have massive implications for both teams, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, I would have loved to have seen USC win last week because, when you have that 3-2 on your record, you hate to say it's a must-win game, but I think on the USC side, it's getting close to that must-win territory. And when these guys start really, I'm sure they'll be talking about it all week, and that, a desperate team scares me a little bit. And the fact that we just spoke about it, it's just, when you're playing football, when you're traveling, you get into a routine. And Penn State's routine is going to be a little thrown off this week, having to leave on Thursday, fly across the country. I was looking, at Penn State my entire 4 years, we never played on the West Coast one time, even bowl games. All our bowl games we went to 2, but they were all in Florida. So I never experienced flying across country. Jason has done it, but that's a whole different dynamic for dudes that haven't had the opportunity or had to experience that yet. So all those factors going into this game, it's like to Jason's point, to your point, Tyler, you just don't know what you're going to get when you go through those first couple series. So it's going to be very telling. We kick the ball off this Saturday. What team we're going to see when we're out there on both sides of the field. USC and Penn State.
Even from a player's perspective, just how different it is, like just trying to prepare, you mentioned like leaving on Thursday and stuff. Like that's always on weeks like this. It's always such a focus from a coach's perspective to talk to his team, be like, we got to be extra focused this week. We're leaving a day early. The preparation feels a bit rushed, whether it's in meetings and practice, you're trying to get more in, you end up leaving early. Some of the meetings or walkthroughs that you're accustomed to having on the field or inside a Haluba, you're now having in like a hotel conference room that, without the same amount of space, guys are running condensed routes and stuff. There's a whole lot that is different. So the mental aspect when it comes to the preparation during the week has to be so elite. It has to be so great, and heightened during weeks like that because there's just so many factors that are changing the feel of the week. And that's something I feel like in football we try to stress so much is like the monotony of everything and keeping everything the same and routine and stuff like that, and doing everything the same every single week, preparing your body, your mind, your film work the same every single week. So when you have stuff like this that inherently just shakes up the schedule, because that's just how it's got to go, it can be really tough. It can be tough. And then you add classes, you add everything else with it. It's a lot.
I will say, I mean, my very first game at Penn State, my freshman year, USC came down. We played USC in the kickoff classic up at the Meadowlands. And I remember that was our coaches were telling us, hey, it's going to be difficult on USC because they're going to have to deal with the time difference and all this stuff. But they were telling us, because it was a new opponent. None of us on our team had ever played USC, so we're all jacked up. You're playing a traditional powerhouse. So from that standpoint, it's just also them telling us keep your emotions in check, because we're all human. You're playing USC, like, man, we don't get to play these guys. I mean, now we will, but this is going to be an exciting time, for the entire team. So just trying to stay focused from that standpoint is another dynamic that we really got to focus on going into this game.
I did want to ask you guys, as we continue on with this USC conversation, we talked about the fact that Penn State's run defense has been so good over the last 15 of the last 16 Big Ten games. They've held Big Ten opponents under 100 rushing yards. Might get a little bit tested this weekend. So Woody Marks is the lead back for USC, and he's gone over 100 yards himself in 3 of the 5 games they've played this year. And the funny thing is, he's actually been better on the road than he has been at home. He's averaging 6 yards a carry on the road, 5 yards a carry at home. Still really gaudy numbers no matter what. But they have done a really good job of sustaining drives because their run game has been successful. They're ranked 13th in the country in third down conversions. They're converting it over 50% of a clip. And they are doing a really good job of having these sustained drives. And like we talked about earlier, they really hurt themselves by not scoring. This run game for USC with Marks as the lead back is pretty significant, especially when you have a guy like Miller Moss, who has done a good job at the quarterback position. They are definitively multi-dimensional on the offensive side of things. And then you add the facet of Lincoln Riley into the mix, who is a really, really good offensive coach. It's probably going to be the biggest offensive test of the season for Penn State's defense.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I was looking at those numbers on third down, especially for our last game. Like, coming into that last game, UCLA had only made like 28% of their third down conversions. Against up, that number shot up to like 41 or 42%, which is not what we expected, out of our defense. And we talk about the adjustments that they make second half, and that number does significantly drop, in the second half for our defense. But like, man, if in that first half we're not on our P's and Q's, like that confidence, this is somewhat of a front-running team to me, where when things are going real well, they're just rolling, And what I don't want to see happen is we take a quick 14-0 or 21-0, we're behind 14-0, 21-0. Like, we've never been in that position as an offense where we have to play a certain type of way in order to catch up. So I don't want this, really our biggest game of the season, to have to be the first time where that happens. And we have to find out what kind of an offense we are when we're down. I don't think that would put us in a very favorable situation to win this game. So the importance of starting fast and the importance of the money down and third down this week is going to be huge.
I could not agree more. And Tyler, you mentioned, this is a 3-2 football team. But if you look at those 2 losses, outside of some mistakes and some bad bounces, this could be a 5-0 football team. I'm looking, they lost to Michigan 27-24. They lost last week by a touchdown, 24-17. Few plays in those games, and these guys are 5-0 and maybe a top 10 ranked team. So I just, I'm sure our guys playing understand that, but from a fan perspective, you got to realize, like, this is a very good football team that has a very, have great athletes and a very good football coach. So, Lincoln Riley, I'm sure he's scheming up as we speak right now. Those guys will be well prepared, and they're going to test us. They're going to make this defense stop them. I mean, I know it sounds simple, but he's going to give them some looks that I'm sure they haven't seen this year. So it's, I expect some trick plays. I expect them to pull out all types of gadgets to throw Penn State off. And as Jason mentioned, and if they can get out to that early lead, that could be concerning.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
So Nick Singleton likely back this week. James Franklin said in his press conference yesterday that he was pretty darn close to playing on Saturday. It was kind of a last-minute decision for him to not play. They expect him to play this week, so that the duo is back or should be back between he and Kaytron Allen, which we've talked about plenty of them keeping each other not just fresh, but keeping each other accountable. USC's run defense has given up almost 160 yards per game on the ground and given up 5 yards per carry. Now, that could be slightly skewed because they did already play Michigan, who they gave up 290 rushing yards to. So maybe that's slightly skewed a little bit. But their strength is in their pass defense. They're 13th in the country in passing yards allowed. They give up just 0.6 yards through the air, less than Penn State does. Penn State gives up 157. USC gives up 157.6 per game. So they are neck and neck in the pass game defensively. If you guys were James Franklin and Andy Kotelnicki, how would you offensively scheme this game to beat USC?
I'm running the ball. You got to stop. You got to show me you can stop the run. I'm literally running the ball first, second down, every series until you show me that you can stop the run. If you can stop the run, then bring up the DAP from there. But I'm taking a page out of Michigan's playbook when they play USC, and you are going to have to prove to me on more occasions than once that you can stop our running game before I do anything different.
Yeah, I think you're really lucky that the schedule allowed for this. You're playing UCLA. Nick Singleton was a bit banged up. You have the luxury of being able to say, hey, we got another stud guy. We're going to rest you for a week because we know we got USC coming in next week. I don't want our guy to be really fresh. Now Nick Singleton's back. We're going to have our two-headed monster back. We're a physical team. They've been through some physical games. Let's not forget that. Like, this team has played some physical teams already. Like, they're kind of just on the tread on the tires is starting to show a little bit here. And us coming to them in their stadium for that same type of game, I don't think bodes well for them. So, they're getting their introduction to Big Ten play. I don't think there's a better test compared to like how they had, Michigan over there than